And today, here we fast forward 5-6 years, you have so many people that are willing to help, that want to mentor people, and I will always be the most proud of that.
Welcome to the Insurance Refocused podcast, where we're highlighting real agent stories and how they are innovating to respond to the changes and challenges happening in the independent insurance industry. My name's Lindsay, and I can't wait to introduce you to my amazing co-host, who just so happens to be my mom, Carey Wallace. Mom, how you doing today?
I am fantastic, Lindsay. I get to introduce the one, the only, the person in this industry that gives the best introductions. I have the honor and privilege of giving an introduction. So today on our show, we have Mr. Scott Howell. He is originally from Hamilton, Alabama. He graduated from Birmingham Southern College. He served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps, both in security forces in London, England, and the fleet with the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. Was also part of the 27th Marines unit while in London. Scott completed the British Royal Marines All-Arms Command course, making him one of only a handful of U.S. citizens to ever complete the U.S. Marine Corps training, as well as the Royal Marine Corps training. In 2008, he joined State Farm. 2010, joined Nationwide Insurance. 2013, became an independent insurance agency owner and is regarded as one of the fastest growing agencies in the Southeast. Beyond that, Scott gives back in so many ways. He is the co-host of the Insurance Guys podcast with Mr. Bradley Flowers. He is a keynote speaker at countless events. And beyond everything I just said, he is loved and admired by so many people, including me, because he's an incredible guy and an incredible friend. Scott, I could not be more happy than to welcome you to our podcast.
Carey, thank you so much. It's making me emotional here. Thank you for the kind introduction. I really do appreciate that. Lindsay, thank you so much for having me on today, and just proud and honored to be here. I don't really know what more to say other than let's get it on. Let's talk a little bit. Lindsay,
let's do this.
I'm not trying to take over the podcast here and become the host, but as we were talking about right before we came on air, I saw I probably get on Facebook, well, any social media for that matter, maybe 5 minutes a day, just scrolling through real quick. And because Carey's one of my friends and I do see her post probably more than other people, I saw where you'd graduated from college last week. So congratulations.
Thank you. It was a big accomplishment.
It is a big accomplishment. Where did you go to school?
So I was actually getting my master's from the College of Charleston. So I live in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yep.
And oh man, I'm telling you, I worked full time while I did it for my 3 semesters of the 4 semesters.
Wow.
Holy crap. I sat down on my couch on Monday after work, and because for the last 2 years, I've had class every Monday and multiple other days in the week, but consistently on Mondays. And I sat down on my couch and I'm like, how do I human right now? Like, what am I, what do I do on like a Monday night? What do normal people do?
Right.
I sat on my couch, but that might be my going new Monday trend. I'm excited about it.
Absolutely. Lindsay, do you mind? I feel, you're not ever supposed to ask a woman her age, but do you mind telling me how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 23.
Okay.
I'm actually turning 24. The day before this podcast comes out, I'll be 24. So I'll be 24 on the day.
I heard somebody explain something the other day on TikTok that really spoke to me. And I was passing this along to a friend of mine this morning whose son's about to be a freshman at Auburn University. And I said, the thing about growing up and growing older is from 0, meaning the day you're born, until you're in college and you get out of college. Now, you reach this point where you were actually working while you were going to college, so you might be a little earlier than this, but say 0 to 25 years old, in your case 23. Man, it's a lot of fun. Your parents take care of you for all those years. High school is usually pretty fun. It was for me. College was a lot of fun. Had a good time. But I only got my bachelor's degree, and I know the higher you go, even in college, the harder it gets, the more responsibilities. Now you're older. But then you hit this age, it's like 23, 24, 25, and between like 25 and 45, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of moments of happiness. You start a family, you have babies, you go to T-ball, there's a lot of moments of happiness, but that 25 to 45, it kind of sucks because life just punches you right in the face about for some of us every day, for some of us, not that much, but it gets really hard after college. And you're like, man, I wish I could go back to high school when I could screw off and not do anything and my parents took care of me or whatever. And then from about 45 to 65, it kind of seems to the hill starts going back down again. At least that's the way I think it works for a lot of people. The problem for me personally has been as an agency owner that got started in insurance late. I was 35 when I first started in insurance as an associate agent with State Farm. As our agency has grown, more money, more problems, right? More responsibility, more employees. I mean, literally, as I'm coming on this podcast, when the camera came on, y'all were like, "Hey, I had a longtime employee that's down here from Michigan here today, and we're in here literally fighting as I'm coming on this podcast." Not fighting. I shouldn't say fighting, but we're getting after it pretty good, right? But she and I can do that because we're like family. And I just think that you're entering what I call the base camp of Mount Everest now.
Lovely.
And I know you think it's been hard up till now, and I know you think it's been, it's, oh man, I work and then I go to school, blah 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 blah. But you're at base camp and you are about to start ascending Mount Everest. And hopefully at some point you get up to the top and you can start coming back inside of that. But that analogy, for me anyway, has rung true. And to some degree, I feel like I'm still climbing Mount Everest. And at one day I hope, and it may be when I'm 60 years old. Your mom and I have talked about that before, that I want to hang it up at 60. One day I can start coming off the back of Mount Everest. But I do congratulate you on your accomplishment. And don't get me wrong, there will be many, many, many moments of happiness and joy and fun and excitement. But those will be interrupted by, oh shit, I'm having a bad day today.
Well, I can't wait. That you just made me really excited for going into adulthood. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's gonna be real. It's gonna get real.
Thanks.
Hey guys, if you're looking to improve your bottom line, allow your team to operate efficiently, and really improve that customer retention, I believe you should check out Ascend. Ascend is the all-in-one insurance payment solution. They are focused on streamlining your invoicing, premium financing, accounting, and they'll even make your carrier payables for you. They are taking agency bill and making it as easy as direct bill. That is a game changer. They integrate with all of the major AMS players, and here's the best part. It's free. There is no subscription, no cost to you. They allow your customers to pay how they want. If you are interested in improving your efficiency, go visit ascend.com/insurance refocused and let them know that we sent you. You know, it's funny, Scotty, when you're talking about that, I think about people saying that the days are long, but the years are fast. And I would agree, like in the moment, they're super long, but then you look up and you're like, oh goodness, a lot of time has passed. And, you know, the thing is, there's more responsibility when it's you. Like adulting is a thing. Like it's just a thing, right?
It really is.
So I want to ask you a couple things, Scott. And honestly, I don't know if you know this, actually. I grew up in a military family. I'm an Army brat. I actually moved and went to 12 different schools. When people say, where are you from? I hesitate every single time because I have no idea how to answer that question. But I think it's shaped me. It's shaped me very significantly, 100%. Right? And I'd love to talk about your military service. This actually is really important to me. It was important to me before I even had a podcast, but I remember where I met you and spent significant time with you was when we were in Connecticut at a mastermind, and we took a picture of all of the veterans together. And it was an impressive photo, but more than that, it was a really great, impressive group of people. And I could see commonality in every single one of those people. And I want to talk about it because I think it influences everything you do. So talk to me, first of all, why did you join the Marines and why did you decide to do this elite thing in London where you're one of a handful of people that have gone through that training? Can you talk me through that a little bit?
Yeah. So we go back to my grandfather was at Pearl Harbor. He was at Hickam Airfield when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. He was asleep in his barracks. And a couple of his buddies that were there with him, they woke him up and they ran down while the bombing was going on. They ran down to a place where they worked on trucks and Jeeps and things like that. And they jumped in one of these oil changing platforms, which are all concrete underground. So it's kind of like being in a bomb shelter a little bit. And he survived that. And I knew that. My dad had told me, and on his vehicles it said, you know, Pearl Harbor survivor and stuff like that. Never gave it a whole lot of thought. But when I was growing up, I was always a pretty athletic guy, you know, played a lot of sports. I was in high school between 87 and I graduated in May of 90. And every single high school and middle school coach I had was of that old school mindset, blood on the saddle, scream and yell at you. You know, I played high school football for a guy named L.C. Fowler, who I think to this day is pretty well noted as the meanest high school football coach to ever coach in the state of Alabama. I remember we were playing the number one team in the state, Fayette High School, my senior year. And I didn't come up quick enough on something. It was like a quick pitch to a kid named Rudy Fluker, who was one of the top running backs in the nation. I tackled him, but I didn't come up fast enough. He drugged me from the hash mark over to the sidelines by my face mask in front of about 5,000 people. And so for me personally, when I got to Parris Island, South Carolina, which is like this big deal, and they yell and scream at you for 13 weeks, I'm like, this is just another Tuesday for me. I mean, I'm not to mention the fact my dad, when I was growing up, was not Mr. Rogers. You know, he would beat my ass at a drop of a hat. You know, he you know, his big thing was the yelling and screaming, and if he got mad about something. So, you know, I get to Parris Island and everybody's like, you know, whatever, and I'm just thinking, shit, I've been dealing with this since I was like first grade. What are you talking about? So I finished there, and there was none of this that was like intentional necessarily. I was a senior at Birmingham Southern. Some stuff happened. I didn't feel like I was going to graduate at one point because I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. And so I literally one day got in my car and I was going to see, at the time I was dating a girl in Hoover, Alabama, and I was going to take her to lunch. She worked at a tanning bed place on the second floor of a shopping center. And as I'm walking the stairs to go take her to lunch, Marine Corps recruiter steps out the back door of his recruiting office. And he looks at me and he goes, "You ever thought about being in the Marine Corps?" And I looked at him and I go, "Nah, never had, not really." But that got the wheels turning, right? So I went in the delayed entry program, promised my parents I'd graduate, and I did graduate the next, I think it was a couple semesters later, maybe I graduated from college. And I went to Paris Island, left there and went to anti-terrorism school in Chesapeake, Virginia, and was selected to go to this special unit that I wanted no part of because I'd seen what they did and what time they got up in the morning, and I'm like, I do not want to do that. And just so happened this kid that was there was married, and he's like, his orders were to London, and I'm like, hey man, let's see if they'll let us change orders. Grace of God, they did. So he went to this high speed, low drag unit that I didn't want to go to. And I went to London and I served there. I was only supposed to serve there for 12 months. And towards the end of my time there, they had a party or something, and the commandant of the British Royal Marines came over, and they were with my commanding officer. They were drinking one night, and he said, "You do not have one guy in this Marine Corps unit that could go through our commando course." And he said, "Oh, I know we do." And so they made a bet. I was not the first one selected. We had, we had a kid that was my size, my height, built about like I was, that was from Iowa, that was a state championship wrestler. Chose him first. He goes down there, gets hurt after like a week or two, comes back, called me in his office. I was option number 2 that they sent down there. And I was down there for like 14 or 15 weeks going through they called it the All Arms Commando course, which was the abridged 14-week training of the British Royal Marines training, because their training was like a year long. So they're abridging that training for other services, right? And I ended up, went through Hell Week, and I think our last day before you get your Green Beret, we did a like a 35 mile forced march through like the marshes down there and stuff, and got my green. Now, what was really cool about that I did not know was going to happen is when I get to the finish line to graduate, to get my Green Beret, my dad was there.
Oh,
my best friend from high school were there.
That's awesome, Scott.
That was really cool. But yeah, had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun. Wouldn't want to do it again for a nickel.
Really? You wouldn't do it over again?
Oh yeah, I couldn't at this age. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I knew what I know now and what all I went through. I probably would. Sometimes in life, it's kind of like being an agency owner. Sometimes in life, it's better just ignorance is bliss.
Absolutely.
Just do it and get through it.
100. If someone told a person, kind of like we were just saying with Lindsay, if someone said, right, this is what it's all going to be, you might be like, I don't know. You just got to go through it. You just got to go through it, right?
Exactly. And I could tell a lot of other stories too, but from a timing perspective, I could sit here and talk about this for an hour. So
I'd love to talk a little bit about like the skills that you built while you were doing that and how they transferred over to the insurance industry. Like, what were some of well, first of all, I guess start with, why did you choose the insurance industry over anything else you could have
I
done when you
didn't.
came back? You didn't?
Tripped and fell into it.
As we all do.
Yep.
But what are the skills that you learned when you served in the Marine Corps, right? That really help you as an agency owner?
So I've had a lot of time over the last however many years. I got out in 99, so whatever that math is, 2023 minus 1999. Had a lot of time to think about that. I would say the very first thing that's not a skill, but was probably the most important thing that happened to me in the Marine Corps is I grew up a lot. Because before I went in the Marine Corps, I think I was very immature. I was fun time, Scott. I just want to have a good time. Didn't really care much about working. Didn't really care much about doing anything. Play a little ball, chase girls. That's about it. So I think I grew up a lot more than anything else. That 4 years, I probably grew up a lot. Other skills that I probably learned while I was in there, there's probably some leadership type skills that I learned, things like that. I also learned some things that or was part of some things because see in the Marine Corps, you don't work with women. Like most of the time I was never around women when we were working, or doing whatever crazy shit we were doing. It's not like so when I got out of the Marine Corps for years, really, but especially the first 2 or 3 years, I had a really hard time working with women because I was used to Lindsay. Hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. Let me know when it gets done. And if it didn't get done, I was probably going to chew your ass real good. And as you both know, with a lot of people in the real world, that's especially
really not going to
females.
work out, actually.
Wah,
That's not,
wah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had I had a couple of bosses had to come sit down with me and be like, hey, dude, you're going to have to soften the corners just a little bit because you're pretty damn. I mean, I'm still direct and but man, it used to be pretty bad.
So it's funny you say that, Scott. I actually have an uncle. So my dad and 3 of his brothers, he's one of 7, are all in the military. In fact, 3 of them celebrated Christmas in Vietnam together. So
Right.
it was, we are a military family.
Right.
The 3 others were all in the Army, and my one uncle was a sergeant major in the Marines. He was the highest enlisted rank that you can be, but he was tough as nails, and he never learned that soft edge. He did not transfer into the civilian world. He was a drill sergeant. So honestly, he had no way to let go of the things that were ingrained in him in a lifetime of military service. So you're right.
Correct.
There are some great things that you learn: discipline,
sure,
seriously, leadership, trusting other
don't
people.
Quit, can't quit,
Right.
got to complete the mission, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
So
But some of
so
it's hard.
you said that. Yeah. Oh yeah. So you said he was your what, uncle?
He's my uncle. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened to him was if he's a sergeant major in the Marine Corps, and you're exactly right, highest enlisted rank you can get. Well, what that also tells you, he was probably in the damn Marine Corps for at a minimum 20, 25, 30 years. Well, you become institutionalized, right? And so with somebody that stays in that long, whatever way they are when they come out is going to be almost impossible to change.
Yeah. No
Stuff.
doubt. No doubt.
So I'd love to talk a little about big industry, small community a little bit.
Yeah.
So I listen to your podcast all the time. I truly do. And I was cooking dinner when I was listening to the episode with Sierra where that idea was like born on the call, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and I immediately was bought into the idea, and I'm like, this is the smartest thing I've ever heard. This Sierra girl is my hero. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, this is amazing. And even when you guys had your event this year in Austin, my mom did not hear the end of it that I wanted a shirt or a hoodie.
Oh,
And
man.
I'm like, you better bring one of those home for me. And she did not, but I forgive her.
I understand.
But
I actually I came back from vacation Wednesday, and in my house there were two enormous boxes that Daniel Song had sent me of hoodies and t-shirts, or I know they're t-shirts. There may be some hoodies too. So I think your mom sent me your size. So I will try my dead level best when we get back from Utah to get you one out. Okay.
heck yes. Heck yes. Knew I had to slide that in somewhere.
Plug that. Yeah.
Me, swag, yes.
Yeah.
But I'd love to talk a little bit about, what it means to you and what your goal is with it.
So, yeah, that idea was born on the podcast. You are right. And for, I would say, the better part of 20 years, independent insurance agents have really eaten a lot of shit when it comes to sitting on the couch and watching all of these carriers promote themselves, promote, uh, really, yeah, themselves. And more importantly, we've gotten down now to the lowest common denominator. We've got emus and flow, and it's pretty apparent. Geico. It's pretty apparent that what they're trying to do is keep eyeballs on that television set, no matter what's being said, whether they're guys juggling chainsaws or whatever. But the thing that always bothered me about that was, like, take Progressive, for instance. They spend $1 billion a year on television advertising, but yet, like, 48% of the total policy premium sold is by independent insurance agents. And I realize that budget for those television commercials comes out of what I call the flow budget, the direct budget. But still, I mean, you just don't have any carriers promoting the local independent agent. And more than that, I know I've talked to Albie Knight about it. He's pretty passionate about it. He's like, look, we've tried. We've done this. We've done that. Well, whatever they've done ain't worked. And I remember the times in my life ever seeing a commercial for a local independent insurance agent were way far and way between. Like, you might see one twice a year, maybe.
Here's the other thing. When you see them, they look like buffoons, Scott. They are not the people I know, like, and trust. Oh my goodness. Sorry. But it's almost embarrassing when you see it. It's like this person that is disheveled. I'm like, why is that the commercial? Please stop it.
Right.
And,
he showed me a video they ran a couple of years ago. The big guy, I guess, paid for. And it was a decent commercial. It was set in a little league field with kids playing little league baseball, but the spokesman was John Smoltz, the guy that pitched for the Atlanta Braves, and he did a pretty good job. I mean, it was okay commercial, but it certainly, to me, didn't really capture the here's who your local independent agent is. And I mean, it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible, but it was probably about what I expected. And so I just feel like there's white space out there for somebody to go out and create some commercials and do it in different formats. So maybe you can fit it to TikTok's format, or maybe a longer video for Facebook or Instagram or whatever, to promote who the local independent agent is. And I'm going to take it one step further, guys. everything that's happened over the last 20 years with the carriers doing what they do on television and things, I think there is a ton of people out there, that don't even know what a local independent insurance agent is anymore. I know that for 1,000% because I went to the chiropractor 4 or 5 months ago, and he asked me what I did for a living. I told him I was a local independent insurance agent. He said, "What's that?" He said, I don't know what that is." Well, that was just my chiropractor. So I just think there's the whole purpose of this whole thing when we get it off the ground and going is going to be direct to consumer, and it's going to be, here's who your local independent insurance agent is.
Well, and I think the thing also is we had someone on the podcast. I can't remember. I can see their face, but the name is escaping me. And they were talking about the realty business and how it really got glamorized once realtors started going on Bravo, started going on HGTV, started doing all these things. And so in my head, when I'm randomly having like brainstorming sessions, I'm like, how can we do that in a way that, because all of those shows, they're not making realtors look smart and trustworthy, right? A lot of them are drama, but that's why people watch them. Right. And so how do you transform an insurance, a local independent insurance agent or a group of agents or something into a TV show? And it's so hard because I have yet to come up with an idea that I'm like, oh yeah, I would sit down on my couch on Friday night and watch that.
Sure.
Without it making them look like petty drama,
Right. So there's a ditch on both sides of that road where you would, I understand your methodology. On one end, I think the real estate industry is probably the closest industry for us to be able to copy relative to how they market and advertise themselves and that type of thing. So there's that. But the other side of that ditch is these people that you see that are on Bravo and E-television and stuff like that have become kind of really famous. Mm-hmm. Well, the one thing real estate agents do that we don't do is they are out beating the streets as far as getting in their car and going to the multi-million-dollar condo and meeting the whatever, whether it's somebody famous or high-end rich person or whatever they're doing. But they have a little bit more, they're a little more mobile than we are. What are they going to do? Come in here and listen to me talk to a client about a bad claim experience and then or make sales calls or whatever. I don't think we do quite as much of the cool, hip, flashy stuff that would make for good television, really, right?
Right.
So that's tough to square. That's tough to square up. How do you make a show that people would watch that was glamorous enough to get people to go, you know what, I'm gonna watch that right there. That looks pretty interesting. You see what I'm saying? Well, I think that's gonna be hard to do.
It is. And then I was thinking about, maybe you get a group of agents together who all have kind of the same target audience, and you have them all go out and quote the same person and see who can win. Like, that might be interesting, but then you're pitting independent agents against each other. Like, that's not what we're here to do.
Yeah, that's not. No. Yeah, I think it's hard.
Yeah, the closest thing I've seen to your suggestion that you just made is that David Carruthers came up with the Protege.
Right.
It's a YouTube series, and it's got like 6 or 7 agents that are all competing with each other. But even that, when you watch it, it's great. If you're an independent agent, you want to watch it and be like, okay, yeah, that's it's just cool and learn some things. But it's still not something that Joe Blow sitting on the couch is going to want to tune into every Wednesday at 8:00.
Yeah, I'm guessing your chiropractor is not going to find that entertaining. Maybe, maybe
No,
not. I don't know. But
no,
here's the thing. I think what's missed is there is this incredible community. Scott, like and if you're in it, you know it. In many
right,
ways, listen, everybody goes to their roots. It reminds me of moving and having, when you move on base, there's like instantaneous friends. Like and it
sure,
has to be, because you're going to move in 18 months if you're lucky. It might be sooner than that. So this community of agents, I've never seen an industry that they're willing to share with each other. They're willing to mentor each other. They're willing to coach each other. They're competitors, but they also give back. I mean, you and Bradley getting on the podcast and sharing things about what's happened inside your agency helps other agencies that don't know. So
right.
it's a community that I think the average consumer has absolutely no idea. And it's important because they are the people you want to trust. They are the
Mm-hmm.
people who are advocating for you. I mean, it's really kind of funny to me. It's like this best
Right.
kept secret, and I don't know how to unveil that secret.
Carey, I'm going to say this. No matter what happens in my insurance career, from now until the time I retire, whenever that may be, the one thing that I will be the most proud of all the accomplishments that I've ever accomplished in my whole life, and that includes the stuff I did in the military and some other stuff. The one thing I'm the most proud of, and that I will always be the most proud of, is the genesis behind our podcast. Was that for so many years when I was in the industry, I got this constant drumbeat of people not wanting to help. And I feel like our podcast was in some small way, and I know that there's I could sit here and talk about 100 people. I could talk about Paradiso and Ryan Hanley and David Carruthers, and the list just goes on and on and on. And it's Daniel Song and all these different people that have helped, Mike Stromso push that ball forward. But about the time our podcast came out in 2017 was also about the time I really started noticing more agents with open arms saying, "Hey, let me help you. Let's all get together. Let's do a mastermind. Let's do this. Let's do that." Before that, and that was the whole genesis of the podcast. Anybody I ever called to help me was just like, "Oh, just sell more insurance," or we just call people, and that's about all we do. Nobody really wanted to help anybody. And today, here we fast forward 5-6 years, you have so many people that are willing to help, that want to mentor people, and I will always be the most proud of that.
Yeah, it's something to be proud of. It really is. It's a
Absolutely.
community that I'm proud to be part of. Like I understand I'm not an agent, but I'll tell you,
Right.
there's no other industry I'd rather work in. And I came from an industry that was super sexy. I mean, I worked in a tech startup. It doesn't get any better than
Right.
that. Like that's
Right.
exciting. You're building something. But it's not the same as this, because I get to help business owners that I care about run their agencies like businesses and really grow something because they care about their customers, their community.
Mhm.
It's a pretty cool place. So let me ask you
Right.
this. Like this episode's going to come out around Memorial Day, and I think that
Sure.
there's a whole group of people that have military background that
Mhm.
might come into this industry. What would you say
Mhm.
to someone who's brand new? You are
Mhm.
an incredible mentor. If someone's brand
I don't know
new,
about
came from military, how can they be successful? How can they be known as the fastest growing agency in the Southeast? Tell me what advice you'd give them.
that. Well, I think I've always said competence equals confidence, and wherever you start, whether your dad's got a $15 million book of business or a $50 million book, and you're going to take that over one day, and you're going to start the first day as the you know cleaning toilets and work your way up, or whether you start less than scratch, I would say you need to partner with great carriers if you can, and that's hard to do when you start, unless, like I said, you come into something. You need to, as you grow, hire great people and great teammates and people that you enjoy working around. And the third leg of that stool is to don't care what it is, don't care, who it is. There's a lot of great, like you said, great people in our industry. I don't even like insurance. I just love the people I work with in the industry. I really don't. I mean, you think I want to sit in here fighting with her before I get on this podcast, or the claim call that went sideways yesterday that I got to call and listen to somebody, yell at me for 30 minutes about, which I don't want to do that. But the third leg of that stool that I would say is to get with some people that are like-minded, that are great, and I would even say ahead of you. Now, you can't get too far ahead of you, because then you're going to be like, I don't even know what these people are talking about right now. But, somebody's been doing it for 4, 5, 6 years. Get with them, maybe in a mastermind or a one city world tour, or something like that, and build relationships with other people in the industry. And that will help you grow, and they can help. And you can pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, what do I do about this? One other thing that I think is important for newer agents too is get on all these Facebook groups and things. I think those are real popular now, and I think they can really help somebody. So that's just a little bit of what I would probably encourage people to do to get started. But as well as I do, you have to crawl before you can walk, and walk before you can run. And there are different levels to this game. There's everybody starts down here usually, and then hopefully by the time you're done, you're playing a way different game way up here. And that's where we're trying to get to over here at iProtect, is to get to what I call that next level.
Well, you're definitely doing it. I watch you grow all the time. I think you have an incredible team there, and it's fun to watch. And what I love about it, Scott, is you're super real about what it takes to get there. You're not sugarcoating. It's
not easy.
No, it's definitely not easy. It's that Mount Everest climb. There's no two ways around it. It is Mount Everest all day long. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you, Scott. First and foremost, I really appreciate your service to our country. I appreciate the example you set to others. And I appreciate that you're a super good friend to me, because you've actually taught me a ton. You've supported my business in a pretty significant way.
Well,
and you mean a lot to a lot of people. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts, because you're a pretty special guy. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Carey.
Oh, and I bring him to tears every time. How about that?
I will end with this, and I feel the exact same way about you. You've been a true blessing in my life. But getting back to what you said relative to growth and us growing, I have never, and I'm not the Lone Ranger, never had a harder year in insurance than we're having right now, because of the hard market, because of a lot of different things going on that about. They're going on in our agency. It's beyond imperative that we make great decisions over here with what we're doing with our future, and people that we're about to start having to recruit again and hire new people, and just playing defense like the '85 Chicago Bears right now has been really, really tough, and will continue to be tough throughout this year and probably part of next year. But all I keep thinking about is, if we hold the rope long enough, one day it's got to get better. It can't. I can't imagine it can get much worse. And I'm in North Alabama. There's some agents listening to this podcast right now in Florida, in California. Don't even get me started about California.
Louisiana,
I think I'd rather be
like there's some tough
I would
places.
I'd rather be in Florida than I would California right now.
Agreed.
And I can't imagine what some of those days are like. I've heard some of the stories you're going around right now. But, yeah, we just all got to keep holding the rope, knowing one day it'll get better. And I think we have to lean on each other, Carey.
You do. You do. You have to, that's when the community matters, right? That's when, this is not something you're doing alone, and you learn from each other, and you do. Here's the other thing I'll tell you, though. This industry is incredibly resilient. When I first joined, people said it was dying. The independent insurance agency is going to die. The independent insurance agent is going to be replaced by things. We could do a whole podcast just about that. But the thing is, it's incredibly resilient, and it's a needed thing. As more complicated things happen, you need insurance, and you need people who understand what kind of insurance and what kind of risk you need protected. So I agree with you. You're going to get on the other side of this, but it's the community that gets you there, right?
Yeah, that's right. Lindsay, it was such a pleasure to meet you, ma'am.
It was so great to meet you. I've listened to your voice so many times on the podcast, and so it feels great to meet you and actually get to talk to the voice behind the podcast that makes me laugh so hard sometimes.
Well, I can promise y'all one thing. I tell people nobody can compete with me on stories because my life is crazy, to say the least. And I have, without saying I have a ton of new stories that I can tell that will be very interesting to come out. But yeah, on a lot of fronts. But it is never a dull moment. I'll just say that. But Lindsay, I apologize if I made it sound whatever about my little analogy at the beginning of this. I'm sure you're like, great, this sounds wonderful.
Great.
My climbing Mount Everest analogy there. But again, there's a lot of happy and a lot of blessings and a lot of good things that will be part of that climb,
Yeah.
So,
well, it was great to meet you, Scott. Thanks so much for coming on.
Guys, thank you for having me. Look forward to seeing you here in a few days, Carey.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Insurance Refocused podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and leave us a review so you'll never miss us. Want to learn more about how Agency Focus can help you grow your agency? Head to agency-focus.com or email Carey directly at carey@agency-focus.com. If you need to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me an email at lindsay@agency-focus.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.